Awesome, and welcome back, everybody. I hope you guys all got a chance to eat. Lots of great food options out there. Get those bellies full so that we can learn more about crypto stablecoins. So we've had a lot of great discussions about crypto stablecoins so far, but the hot trend these days is meme coins, right? So this next panel, we're going to be talking about will stablecoins ever get used beyond Degen trading, and does it still matter? Hosted by Adam from Akash Network.
Hello. How's everyone doing? All right, I like that. That's good. Well, how are you guys?
Fantastic. Last day.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Well, thank you guys for joining our panel here today. All about stablecoins. Will stablecoins get used beyond Degen trading, and does it still matter? Well, we're going to find out. My name is Adam Wozni, and I will be your moderator for today's panel event. In my day job, I'm actually head of community for the Akash Network, and very briefly, the Akash Network is a marketplace for cloud compute. You need access to high-performance GPUs, and you want those GPUs to be open source, decentralized, permissionless. Check out Akash. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. I could talk about that all day long. Today, we're going to be covering the current landscape, business models, and future outlook of the stablecoins market. I'm joined by a fabulous panel here. First up, we have Jelena Djuric.
Wow.
I practiced that.
Impressive.
Co-founder of Noble. And on Twitter, it says you're defiantly optimistic. What are you defiantly optimistic about?
You know, in the face of so many reasons to be pessimistic, there's so many reasons to be optimistic, and you kind of have to be defiantly so. Yeah. So,
that's good. No,
yeah,
that's good. Yeah.
It's a good line.
Next up, we have, this is the hardest one, I apologize. Joao Reginato.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Chief Strategy Officer of MO Labs. It says you've been doing product development for over 25 years. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm a little older than I look, yeah. That's what I've been told.
Any key learnings?
A few. Shoot. If we want to talk about stablecoins. Yeah, no, I'm Chief Strategy Officer for M0. I joined M0 about 1.5 years ago. Prior to that, I spent 8 years at Circle, where I led the build-out of USDC and some other stablecoin products. I won't get into the rest of that because it's going to sound too old.
All good. And finally, we have Austin King, co-founder of Omni. I saw that you were, or maybe still are, a rugby player. Do you still play rugby?
Wow, that's a throwback. No, all my friends started getting concussions, and I quit.
I've never played rugby. It just looks like a little too intense, and I don't want to ruin my ears. I worry about the ears.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. Some of my friends ruined
your ears look great, man. Good ears.
Thank you.
But that's not what we're here to talk about, ears. We're here to talk about stablecoins. So I want to kind of kick it off with like a level-setting question. Let's start with your current assessment. You know, how much stablecoin usage today is truly for speculative trading versus other use cases, and how has this ratio evolved over the past 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I'll begin. There's a really good chart that Artemis has been circulating past few days. If you look at the kind of market cap of an index of crypto tokens, I'm not sure, maybe let's say top 100, top 200, that's going down, and yet at the same time, stablecoin issuance is going up. And there's actually quite a large difference between those two figures. So, right now there, let's say, isn't as many opportunities for speculative trading because things aren't very, hot right now, and yet you see stablecoin issuance kind of going up. It's just an interesting kind of current data point that I think suggests that a lot of that growth is non-speculative.
Yeah, I'll add a slightly different perspective. We are totally at M0. We are a platform for the building of stablecoins for specific use cases. So we are totally interested in this growth of a more varied set of use cases, and I think we see that. But I think it's always a little bit, at least to me, it's always a little bit annoying. And I don't think we are the crypto industry, the crypto sector, so I don't think we do that. But I think it's a little bit annoying to me how, every time that something works, there's that tourism that happens, and people land. They've never touched stablecoins, but all of a sudden it seems like they have invented it. And now, and I'll name names, not people, but I'll name names. There was the event of, the Stripe acquisition of Bridge late last year, and oh my gosh, all of a sudden stablecoins are magical, and it seems like, everybody's using them for cross-border remittances around the world, and even Elon Musk and Starlink. There's a lot of bullshit in that. The volumes and the reason why stablecoins have become so large to the extent that they are today is absolutely 90-something, very high percent, because they are a phenomenal layer for settlement of crypto capital trading, right? Crypto capital markets trading. Whether people like it or not, it is what it is. All of these other use cases are growing phenomenally. The use of cross-border, the euro-dollar use case abroad. But if you dig in the numbers, still like the crypto industry has been what propelled stablecoins to what they are today. I don't think this is going to be the picture in 5 and in 10 years' time. I think now it's a tipping point where we will see the adoption from other use cases, and I think we're going to talk more about what those are. But I also don't like people to rewrite history and kind of all of a sudden erase the bulk of the usage about that. Not that I said that Jelena is doing it, far from it.
Yeah, I think that's largely fair. It definitely was born out of degeneracy. We had these tools so that we could move out of Bitcoin and ETH when things were freaking out. But what I'm personally really excited about with stablecoins that we're seeing today is, for a long time, the vision of Bitcoin is sovereign money that people can escape local fiat currencies that are just falling in value every single year. And even though it's not the original Bitcoiner vision of sovereign money, stablecoins are actually providing that for people today. People in Argentina are fleeing the local currency into stablecoins. So while a majority of this activity might be degenerate behavior, there's actually still a ton of utility that's being adopted in developing nations across the world, where it's actually really, really important that people have this alternative, and it's concretely impacting their lives.
Yeah, and that kind of leads to my next question nicely, kind of cross-border payments and regulation, right? And I think we've seen some clarity, improving. Oh, hey, dog.
Oh.
Nice dog. He likes this question. We've seen some regulatory clarity improving in some jurisdictions. How do you think this has affected the development trajectory for stablecoins designed for real-world applications?
I think that's going to make a huge impact. I think, and it's not only the clarity, I think, but it's the friendliness as well. I think I've spent 8 years at Circle, as I said. Now I have a slightly different perspective, and we're trying to push the boundaries of what can be done with stablecoins, because I think everything that we see today is very much a V1, and the tech stack is going to look different. But unfortunately, we lived in a world in the last 4 years where a lot of people who were working in the stablecoin sector, they were kind of hiding, in several corners of the world, perhaps trying not to be in the U.S. If you shared yield of a stablecoin, yikes, was that a security, and were you going to go to jail? All those silly conversations. So I think people began to ask for clarity, but sometimes clarity and regulation comes and then comes directly against you, right? The other day I was looking at somebody who registered a yield-bearing stablecoin in the U.S. as a security. I mean, well, it's not exactly the precedent we wanted to set in the U.S. I think what's more important is friendliness, because, for example, what happened in Europe with MiCA is not exactly a very friendly set of regulation for stablecoins. It makes it very economically not viable for you to run a stablecoin in Europe. But I think friendliness is important, and I think the friendliness will come with the changes that I think we have seen in the last number of months. And again, I point to the acquisition of Bridge from Stripe. I think that will probably be seen looking back in a few years as a pivotal moment where some company decided to take a little bit more risk and say, you know what, this is ready enough, even without clarity from a regulatory point of view, but we see the environment is friendly, that we're going to go in and we're going to take a little bit of risk and use it. Because I think when those players start touching it, that's when we will see, which we're already seeing, as Jelena alluded to, that's when we will see a humongous growth in adoption and size, because the size of stablecoins today, 220 billion, they're really a drop in the bucket of what they can be.
Yeah. I'm not sure how many people know this, but actually one of Trump's executive orders was signaling that private stablecoin innovation would be encouraged at the expense of central bank digital currency kind of innovation. So that's not like a piece of legislation, obviously. That's just an executive order, but it clearly kind of symbolizes and creates an intention, at least in the U.S., that there should be a plethora, of kind of options for consumers. That these like private stablecoins, should exist and they should be, innovated on top of. So definitely happening currently, and it's exciting.
Yeah. So to keep in the kind of current landscape kind of theme, what are some use cases you've seen beyond trading that has shown the most promising traction so far, and why do you think they haven't scaled more significantly?
I mean, payments. Just literally paying people holding stable currency. And I think it's just we're going through maturation phases where you did need to build up global network effects. Like, if anybody's been seeing the Base account, they keep running around asking people, like, will you accept crypto? Will you accept crypto? And they're like, no, dude, like, get out of here. But like that's just because they don't have the infrastructure set up, and it sounds weird to them, and they like think it's like Ethereum or Bitcoin, some volatile, crazy thing. So I think a lot of it is just like getting stablecoins integrated more at the actual like usage layer of like the retail usage layer. Most of it has been at the infrastructure and trading layer so far.
Yeah, I'll give a little bit of a different perspective. So we're working with Joao and the team at M0 to actually launch a stablecoin called Noble Dollar. This is coming next week on Wednesday, USDN. So we're very excited. But USDN, like the application that I actually see this serving kind of in the immediate term is for any developers that use stablecoins on their platform, right? You're a DeFi developer, you run an exchange of some sort. Stablecoins are obviously a big part of that economy, but you don't get any interest from the stablecoins on your platform, right? You typically use USDC or Tether, and so having a yield-bearing stablecoin, which is what USDN is, you could actually take that interest kind of earned as revenue, and you could pay for your expenses. So it's a bit nuanced, right? It's not like payments or remittances that we typically talk about, but this is actually a tool you can use as a company to actually continue kind of growing your business. So yeah, yield-bearing stablecoins for developers, and obviously these DeFi applications will definitely take off in ways that we don't even realize right now, because you can control that yield on top of the distribution.
Yeah, I completely agree with both. I think what I would add that I think it wasn't mentioned, and as I said, at M0 we are building, we're building a stablecoin platform for builders essentially. So anyone who wants to build a stablecoin, they can build it on top of M0 super easily, tapping on a shared liquidity network, and all those stablecoins are interoperable with each other. So it sounds like, wow, super phenomenal, but as Luca was saying earlier in another panel, by the way, that's the way commercial banking works, right? And so we went backwards, and we have like all these forms of money that are very fragmented. It's horrible, and that's a big part of why Tether is the size that it is just because there's gravity around a form of payment. If you have to fragment liquidity, that's always very poor. So we facilitate this for any builder team that wants to create their own stablecoin. The most interesting pool that I'm seeing, the thing that interests me the most, is actually not in payments. It's how stablecoins can play the role of the next generation, almost banking as a service. If you are a fintech, and if you have built a fintech, if you know what it takes, it's a very cumbersome type of structure legally and technologically speaking that you need to build up. You need to have a banking partner, you need to have FBO accounts, you need to have entry points for customer deposits, and then probably you need to have also a payments processing partner that will plug into that and allow you to move all that money. If you think about all these things that I listed, that you can get all of that from a stablecoin, and your own stablecoin, not a stablecoin that you then want to go to Binance and get it listed. That's not the point. It's probably just an implementation detail that people won't even know that they're using a stablecoin. Is a dollar balance on some app that behind the scenes sits, some amount of funds on chain, and particular addresses manipulated by a smart contract. I think that we are seeing today a few fintechs already beginning to build that on top of M0, and I think in the next 5 to 10 years we will see most fintechs in dollar terms being built on stablecoins and not on commercial banking partnership.
So I think this kind of leads nicely to the next few questions. We're talking regulation, we're talking use cases. This leads to business models, right? And to take a contrarian view, I would say some TradFi bros would argue that the business model for stablecoin issuers is broken and bound to be disrupted. Do you agree? And what sustainable business models do you see emerging?
I actually don't think it's broken. I think it's a phenomenal business right now. If you look at Tether, having said that, I think it's such a good business that I do think it will be disrupted. There's just such a clear incentive for people to come in and share more of the profits that these companies, these centralized companies, are not passing on to the token holders. And so there's definitely going to be like interesting friction as that happens, but there's a massive opportunity. Everybody sees how much money Tether is making, and they're trying to hop on that.
Anything to add?
No, I agree. I don't think the business model is broken fundamentally because if you want to accept that the business model is broken, then you have to question the business model of banks as well. They're not too dissimilar. I think the one thing, I wouldn't call it broken, but the one thing that I see evolving into the future is that what we have known commonly as stablecoin issuers to date, namely Tether, Circle, Paxos, these are probably the biggest three. There is an anti-pattern in those business models that I agree that I think we will see changing into the future, which is that they don't own any use cases. They just do stablecoin issuance. And this creates, I've watched a few panels this morning here where everybody touched on the same thing. This creates this weird dynamic between the issuers and their distribution channels, where the distribution channels are seeing themselves creating the value, right? Because they own the use cases. I mean, Binance owns the use case. It's not Tether who owns that trading use case, but all the value goes to the issuer. I mean, that seems like a bit odd. And you have these dynamics of people asking each other for yield and sitting around table and closing back office deals and all that. I think we will move into a situation where there will be a lot more stablecoin issuers, but they will own a use case. And then they don't need to go anywhere else to kind of do a tricky deal. And we will see then, to I think a point that was mentioned as well, we will see the fragmentation, I think, of market share being driven by that, because issuance is going to be pushed to the edges where the use cases actually is.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, the value really is captured on like the UI level, like who has direct access to the end user, right? And right now it is really the centralized exchanges. Binance, obviously, in the Tether case, Coinbase in the USDC case, many other examples. So that's going to be disrupted like heavily as the issuer has control over the distribution, as Joao said.
But the issuer still makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I think we have time for maybe a couple more questions, and these ones are really just for me, so I'm just curious about these ones. Do you believe that regional stablecoins with specific regulatory compliance are a valuable construct, or should the focus be on global solutions?
Spicy.
Do you mean regional
regional
stablecoins as in regional currencies?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a question I get a lot, and I still don't know exactly how to think about that. I've been, as I said, I was at Circle before. I led the build out of USDC, and then we built Eurocoin, and we considered building other currencies back in my day there. And there just wasn't like enough traction to justify a lot of the investment on those things. I think, but on the other hand, I think some people, the more tourist side of stablecoins, as I said before, I think they find it amazing, these use cases where you pick a regional currency on one side, convert to a dollar stablecoin, send it over to another country and convert back into another currency. I think that's extremely cumbersome, and it's a very expensive flow, and while people might think it's cool, it's actually very, very bad and silly to do it that way. And I think I see stablecoins as more like, the early days, and I'll show my age now, the early days of digital photography, right? When digital cameras came up, and most of you are too young to remember this, but people would
spring chicken.
Yeah, people would take those cameras, take a photo, and there was only one use case. It was to go to some kiosk on a mall to print them out, right? So they had to off-ramp because there was you couldn't send a picture to anybody. It was too cumbersome. It took 10 minutes to upload it to your Yahoo Mail at that point, right? And fast forward, like you started to have a lot of use cases for digital photography, right? You had like Instagram and all the web use cases, and so people never off-ramp anymore. I think there's something there, I think, for regional stablecoins in that they're never going to be as big as the dollar in the same way that the dollar is the global currency of the world. But people will not off-ramp anymore to actual fiat. They will off-ramp to some flavor of a local digital currency that they can use in day-to-day use cases.
I like this question because the premise here really is like what's going to happen in regards to fiat currencies at large. Any fiat currency that is not digitized is just going to fall out. We're already seeing that nations are trying to hold on to their fiat currencies, and their citizens want to escape it. It's a way to like implicitly tax citizens throughout the world. That's what fiat currency is. And so really it's just like, do we move into a world where everybody in the world uses USD? Maybe China is able to trap their citizens into using their local currency. So I don't think it's just about like local currencies. I think it's really about the evolution of the concept of fiat currency at large.
Well, I think we actually don't have any more time, so this last question I'm just going to ask you off stage. And if you want to hear it, come on over and say hello. But I want to thank you guys for being on this awesome panel. Thank you guys for joining this, and have a great ETHDenver.
Thank you.